welcome to Betty King International Ministry. Our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Betty King, greets you. Welcome to another episode of Bruised but Not Broken. My name is Angelina, and this evening I am joined by my friend in America, Leticia Garcia, otherwise known as Letty. Good evening, Letty.
Hey, hi.
Thank you so very, very much, woman of God, sister in faith, for joining me this evening.
Of
Um,
course.
Over the last couple of weeks, for those of you who've been watching this series, you've seen other sisters in Truth Vine Church come together and have conversation about bruised but not broken. And today, Letty and I get to continue that conversation. So I'd like to start by reading Psalm 119, 107, and it says, I am sorely afflicted. Renew and quicken me. Give me life, O Lord, according to your word. Now, in one of the previous episodes, I had mentioned to a friend of mine that I was walking around bruised and I didn't even know. And you are such an integral part of my walk of faith that there was no way that I could continue this conversation without you being part of it. So I just want you to kind of explain to people what it was that you saw and that you see in people, because I truly believe it's definitely a gifting that makes you pursue them and the way that you pursue them as they begin to see who the Lord is.
That's an interesting question. And I know you and I have mentioned that it's never really intentional. I think when I meet people, there's just a sense of connection, or maybe not so much seeing the bruised part, but seeing the strengths of someone, and then just wanting to build them up and encourage if that's, what is necessary. I don't ever look at somebody and think, oh my gosh, like they need Jesus, let me just go. It's never like that. It's more of, I see potential, I see such good. And it's never with the thought of that I'm going to go tell them about Jesus. It's just a conversation that starts. And then a lot of times as the conversation goes on, if they say something, I might be like, oh, are you a Christian? I'm a believer too. Or if the opportunity presents itself, I may say, I'm a believer. Do you mind if I pray for you? Or maybe just bring something up in my past. Say, I went through that and my faith got me through. But it's always very gentle and subtle, because I feel like that's how the Lord is. He's not very aggressive or pushy. He's very gentle. And I think that is my approach as well. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely say that you were very gentle and you were very intentional. How long exactly did it take you to get me to walk through a church door?
That's so funny because it took a year. It took a whole year. I think at one point I said, you have an open invitation, because I didn't want to keep asking and you'd be like, stop. So it was just like, you have an open invitation whenever you want to go. But right before I had to leave the country, I'm like, I've got to ask her one more time.
Wow.
And that's when you decided, okay.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And the place that you took me was?
To Truth Vine Church, to Reverend Betty King's ministries, which was really interesting for me how I got there. It was so roundabout. It wasn't, I saw an ad or anything. Do you mind if I go on and tell?
Oh, please.
So I was having a lot of dreams at the time, and I've had dreams throughout my life, and I knew that there could be something more to them. And so I like to go to YouTube, and I went to YouTube and started looking for dream interpretation, biblical dream interpretation, that kind of thing. And I came across Sean Bowles, and I was listening to Sean Bowles a lot, and then just decided to look to see if he had any events coming in London. And sure enough, he was coming to London, and he was coming to Reverend Betty's church. And that's how I ended up there. As she had flyers, and she was going to have another dream interpreter in a few weeks, in the prior or before, after. And so then I went back to that. And I was very fortunate that they interpreted a dream of mine there. And then Reverend King asked if I would speak at a women's conference. So I ended up speaking at a conference.
Wow. I mean, what an amazing opportunity to kind of step into, you know, a beautiful home church like that, and for them to kind of welcome you with open arms.
Yes.
And not only that, but there was that moment of elevation when you were able to speak kind of life into other people, into other women. Like, what was the topic? Do you mind sharing?
Oh, no, not at all. It was sharing my testimony. And at the time, so my husband passed away in 2009. And this was probably 2017 at the time. My youngest had left home about 2014 when he went on to the Army. And that was such a change for me, because when my husband died, I was still a mom with two sons at home. And I feel like I really poured myself into their lives. And then my youngest, my oldest son left. And then when my youngest, I really felt like, well, there goes my purpose. And so I shared how I was an empty nester, and I didn't know how to be anybody else. And here I found myself in a new country, trying to figure that out, and in working with the Department of Air Force, working with the young airmen, that kind of helped me figure out and kind of work my way through. So in reality, I was bruised, and working through that as a mom with no children at home, with a wife with no husband living. And so I was a single woman, and it was like, I don't know what I want or who I am. And so I was able to share that testimony, and then share that part, but then share how, and you may remember how a young man walked into our office when I happened to be working at the front desk, and my spirit just started jumping, because there was something that I could see. And he wanted to speak to one of our coworkers, and she was busy, and the sadness that came over his face. Then I said, you can wait if you want. And that turned out to be such a lifesaver, literally. And so I was able to share that at the women's conference, and it touched many women, because there are many women that go through that, aren't they? Maybe they've lost their husband, or our children do, and that's what we want. We want our children to move on and be independent. That's what we wanted, to move out and be independent. But that left me what I kept saying, alone, and everybody was like, but you're not alone.
Right.
True, right? But I had to really figure that out, and so I was able to share that, and it was wonderful for me. It was very healing at the same
Right.
time. Yeah.
I mean, what you said that you said a statement, and it just kind of knocked me back when you said I was a wife without a husband.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many people that kind of go like through that, and especially as we're coming up to like Christmas, like it's a daunting time, because you remember all of those celebrations and all of those memories creep up. Like, how do you escape the darkness?
The one thing, as you were saying, that kept coming through my mind is that was where my relationship with the Lord changed, because then he became everything that I needed. Not that he wasn't previously, right? But it was more recognizable. It was more needed.
Yeah.
When I was what I felt left alone, and him knocking on my door saying, you're not alone.
Wow.
And working through that, and that relationship with him changing, of my husband, my friend, my
yeah.
teacher, all of those things. And so that changed for me. And it's been quite the journey, actually. Yeah.
What are some of
Yes.
the roadblocks, obstacles, things that you've had to pick up and move to the side? What's one of those things that you would like or can share at this?
So one of the things for me that I had to really get past was forgiveness.
Mm,
Um, forgive forgive my husband for dying. It's really what it comes down to. I know I laugh, but being obedient to the Lord and being at a church service,
mm,
I was having some problems with my jaws. I was in pain and had already been to the doctor and to the dentist. They were like, "There's nothing wrong with you."
oh,
Being at a church service, I heard the Lord say, somebody was walking past. He's like, "Ask her to pray for you." And
oh,
so I went to this person, this lady at the church, and I said, the Lord said to pray for me. And so she said, okay. And she asked me what was going on. I said, I'm in pain, blah, blah, blah. And then she looked at me and she's like, I know your husband has passed away. She's like, but are you mad at him? And I
mm,
said, as a matter of fact, I am. And I just started crying. And as soon as I released that, my jaw stopped hurting.
oh,
So it was getting to that point where he couldn't help it. It wasn't his fault. And I had to forgive him for leaving me. And that's what it felt like. And then again, going back to working in that relationship with him, through that forgiveness and just that, again, that relationship with him changing and getting to this new place. And it's been quite the journey of many lessons throughout the one, but the biggest one I think for me was forgiving and letting just him just rest. Yeah. Yeah. So that,
wow.
yeah.
I mean, as you said that, I was like, I kept thinking about when we read 107, it said, "Give me life."
Right.
You
That's,
know, it's like,
yeah.
give me life, renew and quicken me. Give me life according to your word.
To your word.
And he does that.
He does. He does. He renewed that, didn't he?
How did he do that for you?
I think the really biggest part after the forgiving is I moved to a different country by myself. My kids did their thing. They were safe. They
Yeah.
were in a good place. And so I moved to a whole different country. And that was huge for me. I've always lived in the United States up until that point.
Mm,
And opening those doors to meeting other people, to meeting you, to meeting Dr. Reverend Betty King, and all the ladies, like you mentioned, they received me with open arms, and they were so loving and caring when I spoke, and even afterwards, how they took care of me afterwards. And really wanted me to join. And then I joined them for New Year's Eve, for their celebration on New Year's Eve. And I just kept going back. And at some point, I was like, oh, Angelina needs to come here.
yeah.
There was I could see Reverend King had so many ideas and her vision. And somehow I knew that you needed to be connected to the church, to her. And so that's kind of when I started like, do you want to go to church with me? What are you doing on Sunday?
Oh my God, what you doing on Sunday? And
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't think I could even put into words how grateful I am to you that over that year you just showed me so much love, so much caring. I watched you demonstrate it with Emin that used to come in the door, and they really just needed a place just to sit and be peaceful and just not bothered. Sometimes people don't want to be noticed, if that makes sense. They just
Right.
want to sit in a space where they can just think, and they don't need to talk, and they don't need to do anything, just to be. And you were a magnet for that. Like, they would walk in the door and I mean, I remember us saying that we used to say to them, "Are you done with adulting?" And they were like, "Yeah." We're like, "Just come, come, come." And we just sit them on the couch and just say,
Yes. Yes.
"Use the Wi-Fi, do what you need to. You
Yes.
don't have to adult for about another hour. You just." But what was it about them? Those ones that we recognized. I mean, and you did it first, and then I followed your lead. Like I was just, I just wanted to know, like, how and why.
I think for me, a lot of that was, as I mentioned, my youngest had joined the army. And I
Wow.
remember thinking, I want him to run into good people that are going to help him because this is his first time away from home. He lost his dad at the age of 15.
Yeah.
And so now he was going to be in the army around adult men and other adults. And I wanted to be that for the airmen. I want my son to be treated like this. I
Yeah.
want somebody to care for him and talk to him like this. So
Yeah.
that helped me out a lot, in helping the airmen and recognizing some things because that's what I wanted for my son. And so that just, it came across this other way with the airmen. And you're right. I mean, I loved it. I mean, I remember, do you remember the one that came because he had something in his arm and you said, go to Letty? And I'm like, oh, you need to go to the ER. And I walked into the emergency room. I walked into the
You,
emergency room and,
you, you, you
I
did
mean,
that.
it was doing those kinds of things. And then I had one where I was helping with budgeting. And then he kept making an appointment every month. And then it just became, I'm going to make an appointment so we can have conversation. And we
That's
would talk about finance really quick. And then we would talk about, and turned out he was a believer. And so it was just, it was such a wonderful opportunity for me. They were helping me and they didn't even realize it,
mhm.
so yeah, but that's what it was for me. I believe a lot of it was because this is how I want my son to be treated,
Wow.
you know. Yeah.
So if you had to say a prayer right now for those who are bruised but they're not broken, and they're just looking for someone to find them and to spot them and to bring them to him, and you had to say that in a prayer, like, how would you say that?
God, that's a tough question. But the one word that comes to mind is peace.
Mm,
Yeah, find the person that you feel at peace with, comfortable with, that brings you peace as well. Because when you have that, you're gonna find that. And a lot of times, I may have been talking to somebody, but it's like, okay, you need to go talk to this person because
mm,
they're better suited. You know, the airman that I came and brought to your office, you need to come talk to her.
yeah,
And so it's recognizing that as well. I'm not always going to be the right person to talk to somebody, but I might know who that is. And if I
mm,
get the opportunity to introduce, but I would absolutely say, pray to the Lord for that peace and for that, to bring that somebody that's going to help you feel safe, and that peace that he brings,
yeah,
because you will feel that and feel comfortable talking to
yeah,
someone. Right. I think we were very comfortable, when we would talk most of the time. Look at me most of the time. Because we are friends, so
absolutely. So Lord, I would just say, to those who feel lost, to those who just need a place to find you, a place of peace and a place of comfort, Lord, we just ask that they stumble across the right people who can use the resources, the people that they have in the places and spaces that they know to take them, where they can find shelter, where they can hear a kind word, where they can bring their entire self, so they can have a real conversation about what it is that's hurting. And may whoever it is that they speak to hear them clearly and point them directly to you, Lord Jesus, to your word, so that you can do what you do in transforming people's lives by using the word. Lord Jesus, we just ask you that, and to envelope them, to surround them. May it be a place, Lord Jesus, that they seek the Father. Lord Jesus, we ask that in the almighty name of your Son, Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow, you just remind me of just so many things, just so many things. What would you say to someone? I know that we're coming up to the Christmas season and we have Thanksgiving in America.
Yes,
So
yes.
we'll begin there because we don't want to miss out a celebration for you. So, but while for some people it's a time of come together and celebration, there's other people who are missing people as we go into the season. There's other people that began this year with people that they were right in front of them who are no longer there or have changed. And what advice? What could you tell them?
So during the season can be very tough, I know. And I think that I'm very blessed that my children are still living and I do still have somebody. So I think about when I was in England,
Yeah.
because I did go on my own. But it was seeking others to celebrate with.
Mm,
But we are also very fortunate here and even there in England where there are organizations that
mm,
will have a Thanksgiving meal for the community.
mm,
And I encourage people, it is very difficult to get dressed and get out there, but I
mm,
encourage somebody to do that. Don't stay at home alone you know, unless you're really comfortable, but I encourage people to go out and find the community, or if a friend invites you over for
mm.
lunch, go, even if it's just for 1 or 2 hours, go get out of the house and enjoy as much as you can the season, the holidays, because they come around every year. Life goes on and you have to figure out how to live it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's when you say just go, it's just like stepping out in faith. It's just
it is,
putting
it
one
is.
in front of the other and knowing that whatever it is that you end up, it's where he's placed you. It's where he wants you to go.
Right,
He prepared these people to greet you and to welcome you.
right.
And that's where you were supposed to be anyway. But it's just sometimes having the courage to open your front door or to pick up the phone or to get online and to reach out. So I know that you are a great person, like you are great at reaching out and talking to someone. So what does that take to actually reach out or be the one who needs to accept it? Like what does that look like?
That's a good question because I know that sometimes it's not always well received. But I
Mm,
think for me, and I think you and I have talked about this, it's for me, it's planting that seed, you
mm.
know.
Now that I'm on the other side of it, and the place that you told me would become my home has become my home, and the passion that you had in conversation and encouraging others, um, I just hope and I pray that other people have that opportunity to do so. What would you say is a word of encouragement as we close this
To get somebody to not to get somebody to go, to encourage somebody to go is wait till the Holy Spirit gets a hold of you.
evening?
The feeling that you get, the love that you get just within, people will be there welcoming, but when he gets a hold of you, it's fire and it's beautiful.
It's fire and it's beautiful. That is perfect. That is a perfect description of every Sunday at Truth Find Church. So for those of you who are looking for a home church, please come and visit us. We are in the Wembley area. You can check this site for details, but we will be there to welcome you. If you go to another church, that is absolutely fantastic. We would just encourage you to continue to get into the word. Perhaps come to one of our events. Tell other people if you find this information enjoyable. But Letty, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to you, woman of God, for spending some time with me this evening, where we can kind of take a walk back through our journey of where we started in our relationship and where the Holy Spirit and the Lord and a great home church can take you. So I am
Yes.
forever grateful to you.
You.
I'll never be able to repay you. But thank you to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And check in next week. There will be another episode of Bruised but Not Broken. But until then, have an amazing week.